One. This is Josh.
And Zach.
And we're here to talk about the Zendikar Rising spoilers as of 9/6. I'm sure there's going to be more to come. And we're going to start with white. And the first card on the list is Tazeem Raptor. Flying 2/2. Triggers landfall, I guess. I don't see this card being competitive in constructive formats. It might be good in limited. I mean, a 2/2 flyer for 3 mana is always good, and to trigger landfall or aid in landfall triggers could be good. But again, don't really see this being that impactful and constructed.
I think it's that same feeling, right? I mean, this is the reason we're starting out with this. This is the newest release in the past 24 hours that's going into the white color pie. And really that limited is probably the only place that you're going to see this actually have any sort of play for anybody that's going into that flyers realm, like you said, and then being able to trigger off the landfall. So other than that, good luck, right?
Yeah. The only thing I can say about this is that there is Azusa Lost But Seeking, which I think is going to be with landfall now back. You know, cards like this, you know, maybe if you're doing some sort of crazy where you're like trying to play 3 or 4 lands a turn, this kind of helps in that. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah, nothing special. So let's move on to the list that is already released. Many people have already gotten to review some of these and have their own feelings. Starting with our mythics, right? We've got the Angel of Destiny, right? We've got a wonderful 5 mana casting cost 3 and 2 white Angel Cleric with a 2 power 6 toughness, but it is flying with double strike. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. Now, that's only half of the fun. The remaining portion of the text here is, at the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 more life than your starting life total, each player Angel of Destiny attacked this turn loses the game. So the crazy part is, by 5 mana, you potentially in a life gain deck are already getting close to that additional 15 life, should you have some pretty good synergies with your early on plays. So at this point, you bring that angel in, you attack 1 time, and it's game over. It's attack now. It's not even deals combat damage. It's attack. So it could be an instant win scenario. Super powerful.
I don't get that. It says whenever a creature you control deals that combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that life. So it doesn't hurt people.
No, it doesn't necessarily have to hurt people. That's the goal. The goal is to get to that 15 plus life total.
So it's kind of a weird, that is a very weird card design where it's got this symmetrical thing. Like against red deck wins, it's kind of hilarious.
Well, if you put in something like Tibble, now they can't gain life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's an interesting combo with Tibalt. I mean, 5 mana for a 2/6 is a huge body. Dodges pretty much all red removal.
And double strike.
And again, it's a great defender too, so it doesn't necessarily have to attack. Yeah, I don't know. That's a really weird. I don't know if this card is going to see competitive play or not. It's a very weird design. I've never seen anything like this before, where a symmetrical like.
All right, we're talking about the Angel of Destiny. I was saying I think that this card is maybe like a 3 or a 3.5. It's got really good stats for 5 mana. One of the things I do see bad about it is it says at the beginning of your end step, if the angel attacked, it's true that the angel doesn't even have to connect to win.
Right.
The bad thing is that it gives the opponent a chance to remove the Angel of Destiny before the end step, and then this ability would not trigger. So
you don't think that would necessarily be on the stack, because even though it says at the beginning of the end step, if they remove the card.
Yeah, you couldn't do it if that trigger was on the stack. Yeah, if they waited to remove it at the end step, then they would lose. But as long as they do it in the second main phase before the end step, then this does not trigger because the card's no longer there to trigger it. So
No, I mean, it makes sense. And I think you're probably right. It's a fun card. I think people will build around it.
Yep.
I think just having that body in the sky, but a 3 is probably 3.5
Yeah.
on the 1 to 5.
Because isn't the lion, the life gain line still in standard too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the white life gain deck is pretty much entirely intact, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they're losing anything.
Right. So all of the fun stuff from Theros is still there. So, I mean, and you're getting a lot more. So we'll talk about some of those as we go here too.
Is that Johnny, the Planeswalker? I can't remember if he was M21 or not, or the
all white Planeswalker.
The one that makes a Johnny tokens. I'll have to look that up. We'll check that out. But if white life gain's intact, this is definitely a really nice add to that archetype. So, anyways,
right, cool.
All right. So you want to talk about Emeria's Call here?
Emeria's Call, right? So we're staying in the Mythic Arena here. We've got a sorcery, costs 4 and 3 white, and it creates 2 4/4 white angel warrior creature tokens with flying, right? Mm-hmm. And as if that's not good enough, non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. But this just so happens to also be one of the flip cards where it can show up as just a basic land, right? Yeah. Just a basic plains, which will come in tapped unless you pay 3 life. I'm not so hot on this. Josh, I know you got a different set of opinions and some thoughts already, so...
Well, maybe not necessarily this one, but I think this is a whole series. There's 5 of these, right? One in each color, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. The big. I saw one for green at least. There's 2 things I'll point out. One is that this says until the end of your next turn. So you tap out, you create 2 4/4 angels. You could follow that up next turn with a Shadow of the Sky, which would be hilarious. You draw cards, you have a one-side board wipe, so that's funny. And again, really what makes this card good is the fact that it's dual mold. Because there's always this push and pull when constructing a deck that I want to have these really awesome, powerful high-end drops. And 7 mana for 2 4/4 flyers is competitively costed. That's a pretty good deal. And then giving the indestructible is pretty cool, I suppose. And just the fact that you can slip this in here and not have to worry about your curve considerations because it's also a plains. Do note that it is a plains that cost you 3 life to come in untapped, which is not a small thing, especially if you're facing an RDW or something like that. But yeah, I would consider the power level of this a little higher than the Angel Destiny. I mean, maybe a 4. It's still like 3.5, 4 to me. We'll see. But I do think this card on the surface it looks kind of clunky and like a commander style card because it's so expensive But I just think the fact that it is the dual mode is what makes it really good to me.
Right. I think so too. I mean, I think the cost is a little much. It's going to find its way into those specific decks that don't mind waiting for it later on or playing it early as that tapped white mana source, potentially for some random 5-color deck. In addition to that fact of being able to get it potentially off the top for free. But the sorcery speed thing is the one thing that gets me here too. Yeah. Is because if it was instant speed, or if you can find a way to make it instant speed, being able to get 2 4/4 angels at any point in time and make your stuff a lot
better. And the indestructibility also at instant speed would be amazing as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more to it for setup, I believe.
Yeah.
And, that's where I might still put it in that 3 to 3.5.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, I don't know if it's this color in particular. I think it would be the blue, black, and green because of Emergent Ultimatum. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, I think Emergent Ultimatum has a chance to be broken if enough good cards get printed. And this is not in that color pie. So this one in particular, maybe not. Maybe the ones that can ramp more in a band shell or something like that. I think it's just an interesting card in a ramp shell where it serves as the land, and then when you don't need a land anymore, it becomes a big threat. So that's nice.
Right. Yeah, it's like a one of. I'm not seeing people playing multiples of this in their deck.
Yeah, that could be right. Yeah. All right. So Tazri, Beacon of Unity. I haven't even read this card yet.
Yeah. It's a fun one.
Okay, so he's a tutor for your party. He's a party making machine, is what he is.
Right. The whole fun party mechanic that we have now, right? He's a human warrior, a legendary creature, costs you 5, right? 4 and a white. But what you're looking at is it costs one less for each creature in your party. So that whole party scheme with warrior, cleric, rogue, and wizard, right? You got your 4 there. So if by the time you get to turn 3 and you've got 2 of them out already, now he's basically a free drop, and it makes him much more affordable. And then you've got a 4/6 on the board. So I mean,
and that tutor ability, that's blue. Was that blue, black, green? I can't read those. Red.
So it's blue, black, red, green. But you can pay 2 for either one that you're missing.
Right. The colorless mana. So flexibility.
Exactly. So if you're playing, and I mean, honestly, you could play it in almost any deck at that point. It could be a 5-color deck, or it could be, a 3-color deck. It just depends on how much mana you're actually having on the board to utilize for your tutor abilities.
Yeah.
Right?
I think this is definitely going to see play. Any tutor ability is really great. Unfortunately, it doesn't put them into play, but drawing 2 cards and putting them in your hand is never something to shrug at. And it looks like a lot of these party cards are low costing. So this I think we'll see competitive play.
And I think one of the interesting things here too, we talk about synergizing with stuff. One of the ones that you might want to consider is that Zedra, your companion, where activated abilities cost 2 less. So in this case, you might be playing it in, a shell that is like a white, red, and 1 other color scenario, and it's gonna make that casting cost for your allies a little bit cheaper.
And it'd be interesting to see if there's any other party cards with activated cost. If you could make a party deck, a Zedra party deck. I don't know. I haven't looked at enough of them. I don't know if there's a lot of activated costs, but yeah, I think this will be an archetype unto itself. There's definitely going to be a party archetype. I mean, they're clearly pushing this mechanic, so it looks fun. Yeah. Also things that cost less are always great in my opinion. We all saw what Affinity did to Mirrodin, so.
Which is a good time. Again, being a legendary human, also, there's enough things going on with legendary human protection still out there.
Oh, yeah. We totally forgot about the good old Winota. Oh, God. They might have to ban her. Oh, jeez.
I didn't want to bring it up first because I think that there's so much with that, legendary humans. And I'm pretty sure that most of your party companions also have human versions of cleric, wizard, warrior, rogue, right?
Yeah.
So you're sitting pretty with this idea.
Yeah. So what do you give this 5 Jace Mind Sculptor, 1 Grizzly Bears? Where does it fall on that spectrum?
On first look, I'm putting it somewhere at a 4. I want to see how it plays out. I think that it could easily be one of these cards that's going to become a staple and work its way up to a 4.5.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Like I haven't gone through this in set and looked at all the party cards yet, so it really depends. And the interesting thing about the party mechanic is it's not set specific. Unlike Mutate, unless they go back and revisit that mechanic, it's never going to get any stronger. Right. But there's tons of humans, warriors, and wizards in all the sets, so that's kind of interesting in itself. Yeah,
I mean they're going to move right into a historic scenario with that card.
Right. So, I think like Gruul Spellbreaker, there's so many good warriors and and wizards and things like that. So
one of the crazy parts about it too. So we're looking at these through MTG Goldfish, just a fun place to check out and seeing all the stuff. They have it
not
currently
sponsored.
Not sponsored, not yet. But they currently have it listed with a attached to it. Now, these are all really super early preliminaries, but $4.31.
Yeah. And
you can see it as a mythic potentially eventually holding that price. Maybe after play starts, it sees an increase because it becomes a cornerstone in one of these party decks. So I would look at that as potentially one to hang on to in that visual for cost.
Yep. So. The next card on this list is bonkers to me. Like of all the cards I've seen right here in the Mythic White so far, I like this one the most just because when you get that much value for 3 mana. So I'm talking about Archon of Emeria.
And it's not even mythic. It's just rare.
That's just rare. That's crazy. That card is really obnoxious. It reminds me of that flyer in what was it? I think it was Ixalan. It has that ability. Kind of, but does it to lands, and then it has another really annoying ability And I just think this thing shuts down, kind of combo decks, control decks that do like to cast multiple cheap spells on the same turn.
Right. And you're going to be seeing a lot more of that. There's definitely some cards out there in both red and blue that are multi-card spell playing cards already.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, on a raw power level, he's obviously, he's not going to break the game, but he's very obnoxious. I mean, slowing people down. Of course, it does say non-basic lands,
Right.
but I'm trying to think about recent decks that play pretty much 75% non-basic lands. Of course, the shock lands will be rotating, and that's a big part of it. But we'll see.
Yep.
I mean,
monocolored decks, right? But there's always those.
Yeah, I think he goes in, these mono white decks that it's just another hate bear. Of course, it's not a bear; it's 3 instead of 2. But it's another one of those cards that kind of tries to lock the opponents down, along with
Hushbringer.
Hushbringer and the 2/1 Vigilance guy is rotating out that stops people from casting spells on your turn. So just another one of those. They're always good, and there's a lot of them. So you might see more play in Historic and that kind of like aggressive white shell. That's where I see this guy fitting in. But he can even interesting in like a control mirror matchup. Like that with this guy on the board. As long as you have one counter spell up, that you can force through anything because they can't counter. If you get in a counter war with somebody, they only can do it once as long as he's in play. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, but I mean, it's that same feeling. It's your turn too, right? Each player. So
it's each player. It's a mirror effect.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay, that makes him a lot less powerful in my mind. But
Well,
still, no, that would be
same
terrible,
feeling.
actually.
It makes him pretty garbage.
Oh yeah, that's now that I read that, I thought it was opponent. Okay, that's I guess that's the sideboard card now at best. I thought that was only on your opponents can only cast one. Okay, so I read that card wrong. I'm downgrading him way now. He's like he's much less impressive.
He's a 2 at best. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
He's
if it wasn't a symmetrical effect, that card would be really fun. But
he's
never mind.
situational. He's a sideboard card at best.
Yeah, if some kind of combo deck comes around, then he's worth it. That's it.
Right.
All right.
So moving on.
Yeah.
We got the Archpriest of Iona. Right. We've got and here we go with the human cleric. Right.
Yeah.
He is his power is equal to the number of creatures in your party. So right again, we're going with this party mentality.
Right.
And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, right, target creature gets 1/1 and gains flying until end of turn. So he is a 1-drop.
Yeah.
Meaning that
he starts out as a
paying,
1/2 by himself. I mean, that's awesome.
He's a 1/2, and he's a stepping stone for everything else that you potentially will be doing to get to that party formation. Right. And
as we know, like there is so few good 1-drops in all of Magic, really, and in Standard especially. Right. So a good 1-drop is worth its weight. Like we saw with Legion, what's
Legion War Boss I'm
not Legion War. The black 1-drop, the 1/2 vampire.
That guy.
I can't remember. It's Legion something.
Death Touch Life. The Knight of the Ebon Legion.
Knight of the Ebon Legion. Yeah, that guy was. This guy is. I mean. Yeah, he's going to see play absolutely guaranteed. I mean, obviously with a 1-drop, his power level is not going to be Jace, but he's probably like a good 3. He's a solid 3. So
yeah, I mean, in limited, you're going to want to use this guy all the time if you are building that huge party. A party deck is going to be running for this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, that's kind of where you're at with him. I would put him probably in that mid range, maybe a 3. He doesn't.
He's not going to win the game, but he's a building block to.
Yeah, he doesn't have his own enter the battlefield, and he's not lifelink. He's not death touch, right? But he has the capability if you're building a party that you want him to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Legion Angel.
I like this card.
Oh yeah, it's like those the Hawks from this is way back. Yeah. The Hawkblade combo, where like of course you have to take up sideboard slots. Unlike I'm trying to remember the name of the hawk that when you play him you can get other hawks from your
your
and
library. Then there was the vampire the Legion, what was it, Conquistador or
very similar to that. I think that's the only bad thing is it takes up sideboard slots, but
Well, I think in this case, it's kind of fun because it's not taking up slots from your direct deck.
Right.
So you could have like one of these guys in there. It
Yeah.
might not be something that you would ever want to have numerous in your actual
Yeah,
deck.
because it kind of weakens it. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting. That makes me not like this card as much when you think about it. You really only want to put one in your deck and have 3 in the sideboard.
Correct.
And that's
Yeah.
unless there's some sort of tutoring mechanic. I don't know. I mean,
To get an angel or a warrior from your deck, right? There is a tutoring mechanic. We just saw it.
yeah, that's true. He does fit into the party, so that's good. Warrior's a very important creature type. Yeah, but I mean, 4/3 for 4 mana flying. I don't know. I mean, when I think about him more, I'm not.
He can replace himself. I mean, it's that same thing. If you have another deck that is built off of any time an angel enters the battlefield, blah blah blah. You know, there's always synergies out there. It's just how good are they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I'm giving him a 2.5 until something changes in my mind. Maybe something else I see in this set, but right now, I mean, I think it would have actually. It almost seems like a downgrade that it's outside the game because sideboard slots are precious, and that makes this guy a lot less consistent. You're not going to see him every game if you have to run one of them, unless you can tutor him. And
right. I mean, I think again, one of the things that you're looking at is in the sideboard, it doesn't make them targetable,
right?
For the opponent right now.
Yeah.
So if it is a case where your opponent is getting rid of other things in your hand, it's kind of a way to be able to pull things in. It's that same thing with Karn, where you could just pull in whatever you wanted from the sideboard. Same thing with Fae of Wishes. So I don't think he's stronger than either of those cards.
Right.
But having a 4/3 flying body for 4 is always fun.
It would be great if you could fetch all of his friends. You can only fetch one at a time. So if somebody hand hates you, because you're only playing one. It's like hard to have 8 mana. That's another problem too. That
they agonizing remorse and take him and he's gone. And it's like,
that's
all right,
it.
That was fun.
Show's over.
That's the waste. Yep.
Yeah.
So he's kind of weak. I'd say probably in the same 2.5.
Yeah. So this card is I like him, but I know he's not competitive. I like cards like this, even though I know it's like, he can get out of hand, but there's so many things that can kill him too. This Luminarch Aspirant we're looking at here.
Yep. So, Luminarch Aspirant, right?
So in limited, this guy, where removal's at a premium. If he sits out for 5 turns, which often happens in limited, he'll take over the game. Absolutely. But in constructed, there's so much removal flying around that he's not going to get you a lot of value before he dies. And I will say that he does get his first trigger off normally because it's the beginning of your combat, so that's something.
Right. I mean, I'm kind of with you with that. I think limited, he's kind of fun. I don't see him in the constructed format really showing up and being super impactful just because of the amount of removal that's out there and the amount of bigger cards that we're already seeing between that 2-drop, 3-drop kind of stage.
Yeah. Again, I like the card. I just don't see it. It's going to be a casual card. I guess I give it like a 2, 2.5. Same as Legion Angel. Just, too slow, not impactful enough.
Yeah.
It is a human though. It is a cleric. I mean, so that's interesting. It's party. So. Again,
limited, it might see a lot more interest, but but that's taking up one of your rare slots for potentially a 3-pack draft, and you probably want to see other things anyway. So moving on, we've got the Maul of the Skyclaves.
I think this is a series too, like if I'm not mistaken. I saw something in green, like the green artifact equipment type deal.
Yeah, so this is the white artifact equipment. It costs 2 and a white. When Maul of the Skyclaves enters the battlefield, you attach it to a creature instantaneously. So this has got that same sort of, was it the Halberd that did a great job from Eldraine, where you could throw that thing right onto a hasty little 1/1 and make it all booted up. So
this
here you get
very obnoxious and limited, by the way. Oh man, it's flying and first strike and 2/2. Yeah.
Right. It's pretty disgusting. So you take like a normal 2-drop that potentially has some beef to it, and you throw this on, and then you've got something that they're going to waste their removal on for sure.
And then you get to keep the mace. So, I mean, 4 equip is pretty expensive. I don't know if this will – I mean, I guess it depends how much support there is for equipment. I would say there is that Legion Fervent – what's his name? Like in a Boros deck. And also they spoiled the new Planeswalker that likes equipment too. So this isn't a bad piece of equipment. The 4 equip is pretty expensive, but that Fervent Champion discards that down to 2 white, so that's fun.
Yeah.
It's no Embercleave.
I think it's got fun, but again, it is susceptible to any sort of artifact hate, and can easily become just the target that needs to be removed. Besides just removing the creature, right?
And you better believe that there's going to be artifact hate in Constructed, because think about the cards that are going to be hanging around post rotation. The Clover deck is almost 100% intact. I don't think Clover's losing anything.
No.
So people are already running main deck wilts because they can cycle them away. Right. And then there's always Embercleave lurking, and to a lesser extent Henge, but
right.
So
there's still fun stuff. I mean, I think again with limited, it's probably like a 4. in Constructed, it's probably a 2.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah.
All right, so Skyclave Apparition. It's a core spirit, so core is coming back. How about that?
Yeah.
When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land token permanent you don't control with converted mana cost 4 or less, so it's kind of like an Oblivion Ring on a body. And then when he leaves the battlefield, the exile card creates
it's no good.
Ooh. Yeah, because once he gets removed, you're giving them a pretty nice 4/4 body.
Right.
Oh. And he doesn't have flying, even though it looks like he should, because he's a spirit.
Right.
I don't know.
Like this card.
He's risky. Yeah, I mean, normally like cards like this come, do the exile with no drawback, right? Oh, I will say they don't get their permanent back, so that's something. That is something. They don't get they get a body instead, which is maybe less threatening than, like, let's say a planeswalker you just exiled. So that's
right. But I mean, it's still the same thing. In this case, it's not. You know how they used to have like the illusions that anytime you would target an illusion with anything, it would just be toast.
Destroyed.
There's no such thing as that on here.
Yeah.
So basically, you got a 2/2 that has no evasion to it itself. It shows up, it removes something that's converted 4 or less, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's even talk about the worst things that we know about.
For 4 mana.
For 4 mana, and it's like Questing Beast, right? So he comes in, he gets rid of Questing Beast, you got a 2/2 sitting there, all of a sudden he gets destroyed because, they have Primal Might or Ram Through or something. Right. And then they get a 4/4 illusion. You didn't really do much, and you spent 3 mana to do it.
Well, you cost him 2 cards. He had to target that thing with removal. I mean, yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. I get it. I mean, this card would be really fun if Teferi T3 was still a thing, because then you just bounce the illusion and laugh and profit. But yeah, I mean, I guess I give him a 2.5. I think he might actually see play, because things with bodies that are also double as removal, even if there's a drawback, because Oblivion Ring sees play too, and the drawback is they get their permanent back, and this gives them something that's probably going to be lesser than their permanent most of the time. Like obviously a 4/4 without any special abilities versus Questing Beast with all the special abilities.
I don't think that I would ever waste my 3 mana, my 3-drop slot for this guy.
I guess it depends on how desperate White is for decent removal. I mean, he might see play. I'm on the fence. Like, I could see him actually seeing play. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
So moving on, we've got the Attended Healer. It costs 3 and a white, right? So whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Yeah. And he also has the pay 2 and a white, non-tapping, right? Another target cleric gains lifelink until end of turn. So here we go with that potential lifelink combination that we have here. And the idea of, again, making additional tokens, which are really cool.
Love the art in this, by the way. Really cool art.
Yeah.
I obviously for 4 mana, he's not going to see competitive play, but in limited, I'm just thinking about one of my favorite M19 cards, the one that made the bat tokens, the black-white vampire. That card got bonkers. Like, he would win the game by himself. This one's not quite as good because they're not flying bat tokens, but still really annoying. And
I mean, and in this case, the key is, so we just had the guy that made the Hawks from, but it was every time that he attacked. Yeah,
that was really hard to support. Right. He wasn't even that good in limited because you're not going to really be able to attack in the 2/3 without.
Was it Falconer Adept?
Yeah, and this
It's
guy,
like-
this guy can sit back and just give other things lifelink.
Right.
And of course, it has to be a cleric. So, I mean, it depends on what kind of clerics there. If there's like a flying cleric somewhere, I would be very interested in that. But I mean, again, I would definitely pick this up in limited, but I just don't see it seeing any competitive.
And
play.
it's an uncommon, so I mean, it's like well, I mean, we're in the uncommons now, but I would say that because it's got the ability to give that lifelink, there may be other aspects that are going to benefit from this. And
yeah,
I know it costs 3 mana, so that might be a little bit more than we want to spend to give something lifelink. So I don't know. Situational, probably not all that great.
Right.
But,
Not. I don't think it'll. I mean, I'm gonna give it like a 1.5. Power level.
Yeah.
It's better than the Grizzly Bears, but not by much.
Right.
And the reason why we're going through uncommons and commons, we were just talking about this earlier. We were like, guess what was a common? Growth Spiral. Growth Spiral is a common. There's going to be good common and non-common cards that are going to impact the formatting to see play. So
Right.
Yep.
We're getting closer to those. So as we continue on down, we've got the Emeria Captain, another 4-drop here in the 3 and a white. Right. He's an Angel Warrior. So again, we're talking about these fun party crew things. So warrior. Now he's only a 1/1, but he's flying in vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield, you put a 1/1 counter on it for each creature in your party.
And that would include himself. So he's actually a 2/2 if you look at it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the time, again, by the time you get to that 4-drop, you've got 2 other.
Yeah.
Potentially 3 other. So
it represents a lot of power for 4 mana.
Right.
You can
flying and
maximum
vigilant.
of actually, when you think about it, 4 extra power for 4 mana. So
Yep.
Yeah, if you put that in that terms, like 4 mana for a 5/5 flying vigilance is pretty dang good.
Right. And potentially you can cheat them in for cheaper. I know we haven't quite gotten to all of the fun stuff that's potential yet, but that idea is
he might see
available.
I don't know. I mean, it's a long shot. He's definitely going to see play limited. I would love to pick this guy up in limited, no doubt about it. But constructed, it really depends on how desperate you are for party cards, just because they're 4 mana. But yeah.
Right. Well, I think some of the things with like that 4 mana is because you want somebody like this to potentially be outside of that reach of destroy target creature mana cost 3 or less.
Yeah, there's a lot of that with eliminate. Yeah.
Right. What we had all these wonderful
and
removals
also
that did not talk about.
By the way.
The power level, right? It wasn't about power or defense. It wasn't like I'm doing 5 damage to your creature. It was that whatever your casting cost is, we destroy it. So in this case, we're getting things that are outside of that range. We're giving ourselves an opportunity to be able to play these things that potentially aren't going to be targets with just your standard removal. And now we're also talking about counters. So you talk about Heartless Act in this, which is the other really good black removal. So
so it dodges some of the main removal in the game.
Right.
And protects other people in its party because of that too. So I mean, he might see play. I guess we have to really look at all the available party cards in standard when this thing is ready. I mean, really
make a whole bunch of proxies, throw them all together.
Yeah. So time and testing will tell. I'm not ready to write the card off yet. But this next one though, I love this card, man. I love cards that this reminds me of a card that me and you were obsessed over for about 3 weeks when it first came out, which was the Fairy Dragon. This smacks of that, like has flying pretty much every turn that you're dropping a land. I wish it was green, not white. Obviously it doesn't make sense to be in green because green doesn't get the flying, but this thing could get out of hand very quickly. Imagine that with that bird we looked at the very first card too, just to so
the idea of being able to play numerous lands again. So and I know that there's some good multicolor cards in here that really are allowing you to focus on dropping more than 1 land each turn.
So this is going to be green, white, whatever it is, because green's like the landfall color, right? So
so you got the landfall on here, enters, you get to put the 1/1 counter on it, and it gains flying until end of turn. I think the hardest part is knowing that it's not necessarily just flying by itself, right?
Right.
So it's it's fearless and it's a fledgling, so it only gains flying when it sees land.
There you go. I will say though that the one problem with this card is that it looks like a competitive card, yet it wants to have a lot of lands. I mean, not competitive, an aggressive card. I'm trying to say an aggressive card that wants a deck that wants to have a lot of lands in the aggressive shell is usually like a Nambo. You know, you don't want to. You want to run like 22, 23 lands in an aggressive shell. So that is kind of a anti-synergistic thing about this card. So I don't know.
Yep.
I'd love to see this card limited, by the way, though. 2 mana for an invasive card, that is really powerful.
It's just a Griffin too, though. So I mean, when we talk about these things for,
Creature
what
type.
are they? He doesn't really fit within any sort of like synergy with other potential like creature buffs. So we'll see. He's not flying by nature, so he doesn't get any sort of like just regular flying buff, Yeah. So I don't know. I would probably give it a 2.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a 2.5, just to be spicy. There might be a bonkers landfall deck we don't know about, and he could fit right in there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Moving forward, right?
Here's Takedown. So another dual mode card. Interesting. That thing does damage to either a creature or a planeswalker, so it can take out planeswalkers, which is always nice. And again, the whole thing, if you really need a planes, it's the planes. Sadly, it comes into play tapped.
Right.
But
I think in this case, like this is a great removal that might fit into like the Winota deck, right? So when you talk about like trying to go wide fast and putting the creatures on the board, he might be something that allows you to again play that white mana if you need the white mana early on, or wait until later in the game when you do have a plethora of creatures out there, and this gives you the ability to either take out like an Ugin, or
honestly, I cannot state how powerful the more and more I think about the dual mode thing, how absolutely powerful that is, because consistency is so important in decks, and just having the ability to have a land when you need it or a spell when you need it, because everybody knows you lose so many games because of either not having enough lands or too many lands, right?
Yeah. Well, and in this case, like the idea that it's a land or a removal, it's probably one of the strongest pieces that you would want to put in your deck.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about those are the things, early on you want the land, or in this case you might have by turn 3 2 creatures out and be able to just utilize it to get rid of one of their early 2 drops so you can start getting more damage through. It's
going to be so interesting to me how to build a deck with these in there and do the maths involved in like how many lands I'm going to need. Like I need somebody with like probably Richard Garfield with his mathematical recombinations degree to tell me what the right amount of lands is now, because I have no idea.
It's 16 lands.
Yeah.
You're
right.
Like, seriously?
Yeah. Cause that's kind of what this allows for. It's going to hurt my head. So I guess it's probably the same. You're going to get less land screwed. So yeah, you're probably running 16 normal lands and then 8 of these or something like that, and you're good.
Yeah.
So I love this card.
You're happy to see it either way.
This card's going to see play when I think about it, just because of the dual mode of it,
Right. I like it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give this like a 3.5, man, just because I know it's not the best removal. Maybe it's a 3. It's not the best removal because it's going to go when there's green-white going wide creature decks. It's only where it's going to be relevant. So. But
in those decks, you're looking at removal, and this is like one of the key removals. A lot of what you have in white is the exile target creature until blah blah blah. There's not a whole lot of that direct removal. I know that there's Swift, whatever it is, where but you're relying on something to be tapped. This is one that just based on the number and how wide you go.
Yeah.
You can do damage to both creatures or planeswalkers. There's not a lot of those options out there. You're not relying on somebody attacking you to be able to make it effective. And you're not looking at it as green where you have to fight something. You know what I mean?
And one of the hardest things in those green-white decks is the draw consistency. And this really, really smooths that out. So that's important. Like, I think that's the hardest part about green-white. That's probably why it hasn't been competitive, because it's very hard. Like, you either get too many lands or not enough lands. It seems to happen all the time in green white. So
yeah.
Okay, so that's a good one.
Cool. Yeah.
Kite Sail Cleric. So this is a flying cleric, by the way, which goes with your attended healer. I could definitely see these two guys being a great tag team in limited, to give your guy a flying lifelink and start making cats.
Yep.
And then he also taps things down when he's kicked. So I love a card that's good early with a 1/1 flying body, and then later when you want to have a tempo play. So
yeah. And again, I think at this point, this is the first card that we're reviewing with the kicker attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this idea that, you could pay for it to come in, and then you've got this ability to tap down 2 creatures, which again is nice if they've established the board already, and that putting a 1/1 flyer out there just really isn't going to assist you as much as being able to take 2 of their creatures off the board for a moment.
Yep.
Right? So being a little bit more versatile, I think that it's all right. But again, I don't think that he's not somebody that I'm going to specifically reach out and grab.
I could see him making a mono white deck, though. I could see this guy actually seeing play, just because we know 1-drops are at such a premium in a 1/1 flyer with, a semi-relevant, and also the fact that he's a cleric, which is, we talked about before, creature type's important. Yep. He's not the most powerful thing in the world, but most 1-drops aren't. But just because they are a 1-drop makes them relevant. Like if it's not a terrible 1-drop, it sees play a lot of times, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and in that kind of same feeling for your party, having a cheap member of your party to get out there for turn 1 is probably going to be something that a lot of people are going to be debating about all of the potential 1-drop party pieces.
Just being on curve, yeah. So
right, he might be one of the better ones just because of the versatility with the kicker
and the flying,
and the flying.
All right, so that's could be a disgusting card on Boros. Core Blade Master, double strike, and then warriors you control have double strike. Ooh. Think about
equipped warriors.
Oh, it has to be equipped. So there's definitely going to be a Boros equipment deck. They're definitely pushing this. So
Boros equipment, and again, so we might see Embercleave making its way back around in this Boros equipment warriors.
Which, to that point, that card does nothing. I mean, that ability is pointless with Embercleave, but yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But maybe there's some other, we looked at that mace. That was interesting.
Yeah. The Maul Skyclave. Right?
I guess I'm wondering if there's any other cheap equipment, something along the lines of, I don't know. That's always a tricky thing with equipment, because you got to balance it right. You can only have so many equipment. You want to see equipment each game, but you don't want to have more than a couple, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's pretty interesting. Just the fact that he, again, is it 2-drop with double strike? That's a 1/1. Right. You know what I mean? By himself, he doesn't do all that much. If you have other warriors out, he might be great, but he's a target and he's cheap. There's enough things that do massive amounts of 1 damage to every creature.
Yeah.
Or
here I go good reading cards wrong, though. I was like, oh, warriors have double strike. I conveniently blocked out the word equipped.
Selective reading.
And I'm like, oh, this card's great. No, never mind.
I'll give him a 1.
Zach spoils it again for me.
I think we're good at that, though. I think I do the same thing. I think you read the card and you fall in love with one idea, and then you kind of forget about it.
That's when I saw that centaur. That I thought it said all creatures have haste. I'm like, oh my god, this centaur is redunculous. Or it wasn't a centaur, it was a satyr. And I'm like, then I realized there's only satyrs have haste. He still saw play, by the way, but
not that much.
Yeah, not as much. No, he was in the grill shell for sure, but yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess I give this guy like a 2. We'll see if there's some ridiculous equipments out there and more equipment support. He could definitely get upgraded, but he's definitely a situational card. So
it better be a hex-proof equipment, because you know what I mean.
Yep.
Moving on, we got the Mankindi Stampede, right?
So it's a dual mode card.
Dual mode. Yep. So this is one that can come in as a land. Or it can come in as a sorcery that you can pay your 5 mana to give creatures you control 2/2.
Not trample, nothing else. Yeah, I mean, obviously limited. This is a great card because it's limited and it's a plains.
Right.
but I just don't see this making competitive play. Just
No.
not impactful for 5 mana.
I see a lot of people choosing a million other things over this. I mean, it's only 2/2, so it's not like 2/2 and trample, right? You know what I mean? It's a stampede, but it doesn't have trample. You know?
And I think the thing is, like, the plains part of it, doesn't it come in tapped, or is it just a plains? That's the big
I believe that's one of the ones that'll come in tapped unless you pay 3 for it. I don't see the
how do you rotate
part
this
of the
thing?
card
Yeah.
there, but I'm pretty sure
If it doesn't come into play tapped, again, like, to me, it's a free spell. That's what I look at. If it was just like a straight up plains that doesn't tap, there's no drawback to playing this card. Yeah, it's not that great, but just because it's taking up a plane slot and it can focus as a spell when you're on turn 6 or 7. But if it comes in a tap, then I don't know if it's worth the drawback of having to.
But again,
not
it's a
curve out.
sorcery. It's a sorcery. So you know, you're telling somebody that this is what you're going to do. You're going to spend 5 mana on it, and you know, hopefully not have it countered or potentially have them wipe the board with you.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't see it particularly all that strong.
I give it a 1.5. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right. When paired tactician, at least one of the warrior attack, put a +1/+1 counter on. So kind of a weird mentor thing.
Yeah,
you know?
well, it's the same as like makeshift battalion, but instead of a 2/3, it's a 3/2, and it's only one other warrior. So where makeshift battalion required 2 other creatures to attack with it, right? Yeah. In this case, you're doing it, but you're only. It's almost identical in that regard.
And that card didn't impact the format at all. No, it saw 0 play.
It was fun and limited if you were drafting around it and planning on doing it, but no. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not too excited about it.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Sajiri Shelter. Oh, you must love this one because you are a total fan of giving, you love protecting your creatures. And it duels as a land. It does enter in tapped, but so
it's that same thing. It's protection from a color of your choice, which
is really big because that's also an offensive thing when you want to sneak in some damage, right?
Right. Sneaking in damage, you're saying, hey, look, you only have green creatures up. I'm sorry, whatever I want to do here is getting through. Or they go to target it with anything, you have that ability, and it's 2-drop. So, I mean, it goes along with, protection from anything. The only problem is it's not protection from colorless. So again, you kind of have that one weakness to it, but most of the time. Yeah.
And again, I think the fact that what makes this thing just really, really strong is that it's not taking up a spell slot. I can slot this in as a land. I just wish it didn't come and play tapped because you're going to want to see these kind of cards, I think, in an aggressive shell. But yeah.
So I would put it somewhere again in this, like, it's really playable. It's 2.5 to 3. It's right in your mid ground. It just depends on what kind of deck you're going to be building.
Right. Yeah. And sadly, like what I've seen so far from most of these cards in white is aggro. Like I'm just seeing tons of aggro right now. Like, other than Emeria's Call, which probably is more a slow control deck, the rest of these cards are kind of, to me, aggro cards. So that's it.
Right. So we move on to the next dual card here. We got Skyclave Cleric, another 2-drop in white. And we're looking at basically when he comes in, he can give you 2 life, which for any of those life gain decks is kind of fun for a 2-drop to come in, give you 2 life, and he's a 1/3 body, but then also has that ability for you to play him as a land if need be. So
I like him less than the Sajiri Shelter though. Like a 1/3 is really underwhelming. The 2 life is okay, but I don't know.
Well, it's not a flying thing. It's not that he's got any evasion. There's nothing else special.
He is a cleric, though. That's one thing that's good about him is think about this for a second. He's a cleric that you could tutor with what's his face up here, Tazri, Beacon of Unity, to find a plains if you needed it. So that's a thought.
Yeah. I think that all of that crazy synergy when you're thinking about it too. And I mean, you might have like a mono white party deck, brewing here with fun stuff.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I can't understate. I just wish these things didn't come into play tapped, but if that would make these cards like so much better. Just again, always having a plains or a spell, whatever you need, Yeah. But anyways, so Angel. Well, I guess I give this guy like a 2. I don't know. What do you give him?
I give him a 2.
Okay, Angel Heart Protector.
So we're now into the commons.
Oh yeah, we're in the commons now. When he enters the battlefield, target creature gains indestructible in turn. So he's not flash.
Right.
So that's kind of a bizarre ability on a non-flash creature.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say about him. I get 3/2 for, again, I'm only thinking about this guy now in the context of limited because he's never going to see constructed play, let's be honest.
Right.
So I guess that's good to try to force a big body through, but even then, I don't know.
Exactly. You're putting him in the 3-drop slot. He's coming in. You're putting indestructible on what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not going to be like an on curve kind of play,
right?
Because you're not going to want to potentially, and it's not flash,
right?
So, like you said, I put it at a 1.5. I don't see it being an exciting.
Marginally better than the Grizzly Bears. There you go.
Right.
This guy right here, Cliff Haven Sellsword, again, a 3/1 for 2. We've seen this guy before. This basically 2 mana for a 3/1.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a core warrior, so warrior is relevant, but you know, he's a Grizzly Bear, so he is a 1 to me. He's a Grizzly Bear. He's just a different way of slicing and dicing his power toughness, but
yeah.
All right.
Dauntless Unity. We got a 2-drop instant with the potential to kick it for an additional 2.
Yep.
Creatures you control get 1/1 until end of turn. If it was kicked, those creatures get 2/1 until end of turn instead. Again, it's a trick. It's nothing all that exciting. Even the kicker amount to pay 4 to make all of your creatures get 2/1.
Yeah. I can see getting blown out by this Unlimited and getting annoyed by whoever played it, but yeah, other than that.
Right. Yeah. Besides that, I don't really feel all that excited. And then finally, we get our Disenchant, which is super important because this
always
is
a great card. Love it for sideboards. Yep. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's a staple, right? I mean, artifacts and enchantments. Put it in the sideboard. Make sure you got one in your back pocket.
Yep. All right. Farsight Adept enters the battlefield. You and target opponent each draw a card. Symmetrical card draw. I hate symmetrical card draw.
Right.
So,
symmetrical card draw for a 3/3 for 3, though, and it's a core wizard. So if you're going mono white and you want to do that party thing where you're doing like a core party, it's your core white party deck. Like, well, then you need them. But other than that, I don't see it being exciting.
So this guy, Kabira Outrider, enters the battlefield. Target creature gets 1/1 until end of turn for each creature in your party. So I think he's pretty good and limited. That's about it, though. Like, just to make some guy, potentially get +4/+4 is fun for a 4-drop.
Yeah, and that would be like, hopefully, your flyer with some sort of unique ability or equipment attached to it. Right?
I love how he's riding a chocobo, though. By the way.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that's good.
So we have a landfall ox here, McKindy ox. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, you control tap target creature. Okay, that would be really obnoxious and limited.
Yeah.
Really annoying card. So not competitive, but yeah. So far, we have not seen any competitive commons. I don't think none of these.
No.
Play.
I mean, again,
except Disenchant. I should say. I should take that back. That
as a 4/4 with a landfall mechanic, right? For 5 mana. If he was 4 mana, a 4/4 with the landfall mechanic, then he wouldn't be a common, right?
Right. He may be an uncommon then, but in limited, I would definitely play this card. I would grab him. He makes combat really annoying. Huge body, takes out your biggest blocker. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing, interesting thing. Well, I was going to say that with these dual mode things, that also makes landfall interesting too, because sometimes you do, even though you don't need the land, you might just want to play it to trigger a landfall ability. So that's something else to think about.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
All right. So we move on. We got Practice Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great name. It's probably my favorite name of anything so far.
Practice Tactics. Say that 3 times fast. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. All right, so you got a 1-drop instant, choose target attacking or blocking creature. Practice Tactics deals damage to that creature equal to twice the number of creatures in your party. So again, this instant actually has some potential for your party decks.
So it could do up to 8 damage on the max, I think, because there's four things in the party, right?
Right. Yep.
For 1 mana and instant speed.
for 1 mana and instant speed as a common, right?
Yeah.
So in your party decks, this is your cheapest removal, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about the other one being like how many people were, how many creatures you had for 2, and then doing the damage. This thing does twice as much damage for your party. So, even if you're sitting with 2 creatures,
that's 4 damage. That's
it's
really
still 4
competitive.
damage.
That's a good shock. That's better than shock for sure.
It's a great shock, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this will see play. This is a good card. This is like a 3. So
this is going to be. I would give this a 4 in limited because this is going to be one
limited for absolutely. Yeah, that's a bomb. Limited.
Yeah. I mean, that is your cheap, easy removal. When people put out their like removals list for everybody getting ready for like the
only bad part about this card is because is if somebody removes one of your creatures, it messes the math up. So if in response to your removal, they remove one of your party members. You might get left high and dry, but other than that, I mean, still really good.
Yeah, it's true. It does have a weakness there.
Yeah. So we got a Prowling Felidar. So we found one good. I mean, we've got 2 playable commons here: Disenchant and Plastic Tech. I said there would be a couple at least. In every set. So Prowling Felidar says Vigilance landfall. Whenever enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter. Ooh, that's nice. Counters are always nice.
Yep.
Great and limited. Probably not going to see play in constructed, just because it's 4 mana. I mean, I like the flying. Flying is obviously more relevant than vigilance and limited. So with the fearless fledgling, but not a bad card.
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing I think about this one again is like, it's the mana cost is outside of your eliminate, right? It has vigilance, so even if it comes in. And you can pump it, or you have equipment out there that when the equipment comes in, you can do something. I know it's only a cat beast. There's still, cat related decks. There's still beast related pumps. So there's other things that potentially you would use this for, but the landfall adding the 1/1 counters is huge because you think about it. If it's not just a general removal, he can get outside of the range of,
So are you actually suggesting you might actually see this in competitive? Maybe it depends on, I guess, on landfall, right?
I think depending on how landfall is, I really don't think that a 4-drop in a white deck for any reason this will probably see competitive. But I think that it's an interesting card, and I think that it has they did a lot to put a bunch of things together for it to look good.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I would definitely high pick this in limited. This is like a pick 4 or 5 for me in limited. I mean, it would be a fun. I really got to see green to see how landfall shakes out, but so far there's been some fun white landfall ones.
Yeah. So moving on, we got another 1-drop, Resolute Strike. It's an instant target creature. Oh
man, that is obnoxious with Embercleave. Holy cow, that's annoying.
Target creature, right, gets 2/2 until end of turn. If it's a warrior, you may attach an equipment you control to it.
So that makes your 3 equipment cost of the Embercleave is 1, plus buffs it even more, and it's all instant speed. I hate this card. I hate this card already, man. I mean, I don't know if it's going to see competitive, but with Embercleave out there, I would not put it past it. Like,
no, anything with first strike that you already have that's on the board, and then you pop this on it, and you have an equipment in play, or whatever. I mean, it's gonna. I mean, go back to that Sky Maul. You can play the Sky Maul basically. And then throw this on it like something the next turn,
right?
If you basically throw your Sky Maul guy right into like a bad guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've got anything else ready to go.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just thinking a card that sees competitive play now is that red pump spell that gives a creature 3/3/2 for 1 red mana.
Oh, Infuriate.
And this is only marginally worse than Infuriate, and sometimes way better, again, depending on the equipment in play. So this might see competitive play. I mean, at power level, very situational, but, sometimes good enough. I'm going to give it like a 2.5, just obnoxious.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting common.
Yeah. All right. That's an interesting, again, for limited, just pump your board up. Makes combat really annoying for your opponent. Creatures you control get +1/+1 on a turn. Talking about the Seagate Banneret.
Yes.
Yeah. So not a competitive card, but pretty good for a 1-drop that scales late game,
Yep.
if you're going wide. I haven't seen a lot of token generation I did see that there's that big green guy that generates tokens, but
Yes.
it depends on how wide you can get to really make this work. But multiplication is always a very powerful thing. So,
Yeah.
so Shepherd of Heroes. When Shepherd of Heroes enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life for each creature in your party. Okay, 5 mana for a 3/4 flying.
Right.
Not going to probably see
Again, in the life gain scenario, maybe he shows up. In an angel scenario, right? I mean, you're talking about, again, it's party mechanic. By the time you get to 5, you probably have all of your pieces of your party out. You're probably looking at that goal to get, something. But as that 5 drop goes, I would rather see the first card that we started off, the Angel of Destiny, more than I would want to see that guy.
Yeah, there's much better things you can do for 5 mana in competitive Magic for sure. Okay, so
that rounds out the available white cards that have been leaked or previewed at this point.
Yep. Thanks for watching. We're gonna do all the colors, so stay tuned for the next iteration here.